Make no mistake about it. President Taco Tits and his MAGA regime, their number one goal is mass deportations, starting with immigrants and then trickling down to American citizens. I know this because I've heard it from President Taco Tits' mouth. But it's not just that they want to deport them, they want to torture them. There is thumbprints and whispers that are eerily similar to the regime of Nazi Germany. Let's listen to Abrego Garcia, his testimony in a court document now that he's back in the United States of America about his life at CCOT. Put this up. Upon arrival at CCOT, the detainees were greeted by a prison official who stated, "Welcome to CCOT. Whoever enters here doesn't leave." Think about Camp Auschwitz. Plaintiff Abrego Garcia was then forced to strip, issued prison clothing, and subjected to physical abuse, including being kicked in the legs with boots and struck on his head and arms to make him change clothes faster. His head was shaved with a zero razor, and he was frog marched to cell 15, being struck with wooden batons along the way. By the following day, plaintiff Abrego Garcia had visible bruises and lumps all over his body. In cell 15, plaintiff Abrego Garcia and 20 other Salvadorians were forced to kneel from approximately 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., with guards striking anyone who fell from exhaustion. During this time, plaintiff Abrego Garcia was denied bathroom access and soiled himself. The detainees were confined to metal bunks with no mattresses in an overcrowded cell with no windows, bright lights that remained on 24 hours a day, and minimal access to sanitation. And I want to say this, MAGA Christians, you own this. You own every bit of this. You pray to Jesus and you go vote for Donald Trump, and they do. And I don't believe in this shit. I don't believe in Satan, but that, if I did, that is Satan's work. And you guys are foot soldiers of Satan within your own religion. You worship the rich and you want to be cruel to the poor. You are a cancer in this country. Shame on every church that preaches hate and sets the psychological soil for so many American citizens to celebrate the cruelty of this administration and this regime.
It's a shock of inhumanity. And I read this and I think every single American should read this and rise up against it. Republicans, all the things, but they don't because they like it. Kristi Noem knew this because she stood in front of it and was smiling and happy about it. They like this. They like the torture.
All right. And then let's remember why they're distracting everybody with this. Let's remember why they're serving up cruelty to the working class Americans that have been deeply indoctrinated by their megachurch pastors and their hellfire damnation preachers and left behind by their congressmen that will not raise their wages and pay them a cent and instead give it to the wealthy. And I want to remind everybody, I'm not a Christian, but according to the book, Jesus Christ spoke out explicitly 5 or 6 times in the Bible against the accumulation of wealth and greed. So here's Twitter user Maine, and he spells it out crystal clear. Taxes paid by illegals in 2023. $89.8 billion. Taxes paid by Tesla in 24, zero. Taxes paid by General Electric in 24, zero. Taxes paid by Facebook in 2024, zero. FedEx 2024, crickets, zip, zilch, nada. Nike in 24, zero. Airbnb in 2023, zero. By 3M in 2023, $0. So a couple things here. They're going to stop the immigrants who pay into all of these services that they can't access. And personally, I think that's inhumane. I think that's inhumane that an illegal immigrant comes over here and pays into all of this stuff. And if they get cancer, we as a country, as a Christian nation, are going to turn them away from healthcare. But I'll let all of you Christians sort that out with your Lord and personal Savior when you pray at night. But we're going to lose the 89.8 billion. And then these corporations, that list that I just read where they're all paying zero, that's going to grow. So for all the fiscal Republicans, how are you going to explain this? How are you going to explain this shortcoming in tax dollars? Because we are going from a superpower country to a dipshit nation, and incompetence and cruelty has trickled down from Taco Tits all the way down to the bottom, and it's all going to result in suffering, except for maybe 20 billionaires.
Well, and that doesn't even go into the fact that the firing of IRS agents to collect taxes, we're losing money in that. The tariffs, we're losing money because of the economy. I mean, Donald Trump is going to successfully run the United States of America like all of his businesses, which filed bankruptcy.
You're exactly right. If we look at his business record, we know exactly where we're heading. And there are decades, because he's like 400 years old.
Right.
There are decades of failed businesses that we can go back and study, and not a one of them has been successful. And here is a Texas state representative who is a Christian, who is the type of Christian that Jesus Christ, the central character in the book of the Bible, talks about: helping the poor, helping the sick, meeting people where they're suffering and lifting them up. And listen to this Texas state Christian representative eviscerate this abomination of a bill that is going to be Trump's signature legislation.
What would Jesus do about a tax system that benefits the rich over the poor? What would Jesus do about a healthcare system that forces the sick to start GoFundMe pages to afford life-saving surgeries? What would Jesus do about an education system that ties a child's school funding to their community's property wealth? What would Jesus do about a justice system that incarcerates more people than any other country on the face of the earth? And what would Jesus do about an economic system that prioritizes profits over the health of our planet? Would he stay in his room and pray? Or would he walk into the seat of power and flip over the tables of injustice? We Christians are called to do more than charity. We are called to challenge the systems that make charity necessary.
I think this is so good because he's a much credible messenger than I am to speak to Christians, because everybody knows I hate religion. This guy is a Christian that walks the walk and talks the talk. And this reminds me of Martin Luther King and what African Americans did with the hateful Christians that used the Bible to show their slaves, their enslaved people. God says you have to be a good slave. They used it to manipulate people they enslaved to be more obedient to them while they abused them and didn't pay them. They used the Bible to conduct that evil bullshit. But the Black church leaned more into the teachings of Jesus. And out of that, you see the Civil Rights March. So it is incredibly important to see a white Christian male, because he is a credible messenger to all the white Christians in rural America. And this, to me, Democrats have to start talking about this. For decades, the Republican Party has brought religion into the mainstream, and they've used it to justify cruelty and indoctrinate generations of people to be assholes. That's just what it is. They're all fucking assholes, and everybody knows them. Nobody wants to be around these people, which is why they all congregate at their Bible studies in their churches. So it's important that when we look at all of this stuff, we know what the truth is. And that's why every single morning, Pumps and I log on to Ground News, and we have their Vantage Plan. And it shows you how the left reports things through headlines, and it shows you how the right reports news stories through headlines. Here's a prime example of this sort of moral duplicity. Here's a right-leaning news source, and their headline is "Trump withholds nearly $8.9 billion for schools with little explanation." That doesn't sound too Jesus-y to me. And then the left reports it as the following: "Harms children. Trump administration slammed as billions frozen for K through 12 schools." What's so important about reading the facts is understanding that these policies harm people. And we are able every morning to go into Ground News and see, oh, this is what all of these people on the right are seeing to assuage their guilt and to put them further into their propaganda tunnel so that they can turn a blind eye to what is actually happening. Listener, join us by going to groundnews.com/IHIP to get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan that Pumps and I use every single day. They're subscriber funded, and our favorite part is that they are female founded. By subscribing, you're not only getting a tool we all need today, you're supporting our work here at IHIP News. That's ground, GROUND news.com/IHIP. And the link is right below in the show notes. Pumps, what do you think about that Texas congressman?
Well, I think it's going to take a lot more like him. And you look at how Christians think they're better than everyone. They're entitled to more, they're entitled to better. And that trickles down from the rich white Christian males to lower income and rural areas, that they're better than Black people and brown people. And so the entitlement that they have through their religion is something that we're going to have to reckon with as a country, because you look at these policies in this bill, it's Project 2025 all day long and twice on Sunday. And that is supposedly Christian based.
All right, let's put up this tweet from Brian Allen on the massive ICE budget in this abomination heaping pile of dog shit of a bill. Here's a fact in this bill. ICE now has a $160 billion budget. That's more than the entire United States Marine Corps. We're not funding immigration enforcement. We're funding a domestic military to hunt busboys and break up families. And I saw some other dire graphs on this. This ICE budget is larger than the country of Italy's entire military budget. So when Trump campaigned on fighting the enemy from within, this is delivering on that promise, because they're not just going to stop with immigrants. And we know this because Taco Tits told us. They also want to go after American citizens.
Well, and you look who's in charge of this budget, Kristi Noem. She has zero qualms about shooting her dogs. And she thinks it's just fine for ICE agents to cover their faces and go in and take people off the streets. So you betcha they're coming for you, Americans. They've already arrested and detained like 70. There's zero money in this budget to increase jurisdiction of judges and funding to find out if they're criminals. We're just going to assume everybody's a criminal. We're going to put them in a concentration camp and we're going to throw away the key.
And why are they doing all of this? What is happening? And the one thing that we all need to start talking about is what they're doing is they're outraging the public so that there will be unrest in the streets, so that they can declare martial law and not have midterm elections. Because if there are midterm elections, there will be a blue tsunami and Taco Tits will be impeached so quick it'll make your head spin. And here's James Carville speaking about this very thing. And we all need to start speaking about this and start playing offense for once, Democrats. Play the clip.
One other thing, there was a question we just popped up from one of our viewers, and they want to know, do you worry about vote tampering in the midterms? Do you worry about Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and some of these types monkeying around with the midterms and the way we do elections in this country? I mean, with what they're trying to pull these days, they don't want accountability. They don't want Democrats getting the gavels in the House and the Senate, be able to hold hearings and start impeachment proceedings and so on. I mean, you worry about that, James?
In the short word, yes. In the longer word, very. Okay. And I think what may happen, he's going to see the writing on the wall in Virginia. This is what I think is going to happen. And New Jersey also. And he's going to see retirements and people are going to start coming in and saying, we're getting ready to lose. I got to change and I got to get some distance. And he's going to see all that coming. And I don't put anything past him. Nothing. To try to call the election off, to do anything you can.
Okay. This is what we have to start talking about. We put nothing past him. We put nothing past Stephen Miller and Trump's top advisor, complete freak show, Jewish Nazi herself, Laura Loomer. They are going to do everything in their power to prevent the people from uprising against this. Stay focused, stay engaged. I know you're exhausted, and that is the desired effect of dictators and authoritarians. So please like our channel and other democracy-based channels. Stay engaged, engage in the comments, and we will see you all later.